But Ran ignores him and calmly continues working. Seeing how smoothly Ran is operating, Dr. Gao gets nervous watching. The gang member notices Dr. Gao's worried face and demands, "Why do you look like that?" Dr. Gao tells him the injury has already been treated. Hearing that, the gangster gets confused. The surgery barely even started. How could it already be finished? He tries to turn around to look, but Ran gently holds his head forward and starts carefully checking the wound. Ran remembers back in medical school, one of his classmates used to stitch banana peels using small dotted stitches, which always looked messy. But the stitches Ran just did on this patient's head look incredibly clean. There's no bump on the patient's scalp, and the wound looks neat. Satisfied with the result, Ran gives the patient a mirror so he can see it himself. Meanwhile, Dr. Gao thinks about how the patient had been talking the whole time, and during that, Ran finished suturing without the patient even realizing it. This is the first time Dr. Gao has ever personally witnessed such a technique. He is extremely impressed. The patient also carefully looks at his head, and he really likes how the suturing looks. Since the surgery finished so quickly, he didn't even realize when it was done. All the stitches are lined up neatly, and the patient is very happy about that. He lowers the mirror and looks at Ran, asking him for his business card because from now on, if anything ever happens to him again, he wants only Ran to treat him. Ran tells him that he doesn't have a business card. He also explains that the patient shouldn't move too much yet, since his head hasn't even been bandaged. But because this guy is a gang member, he doesn't really care. He stands up anyway and announces proudly that his head has been stitched perfectly, so he doesn't need any bandage. Then he says that next time he gets injured, he'll only come to Ran. After that, he tells his men they still need to teach someone a lesson. And all of his guys follow him out, meaning the poor guy who injured their boss is in serious trouble now. Seeing them leave like that, Ran tries to stop them. All the doctors around are shocked watching this happen. After they leave, Ran looks at his system window and sees that his task completion has reached 2 out of 10, which means he still has to treat 8 more patients using his suturing skills. Ran thinks to himself that, at this rate, the mission is going to be finished pretty quickly. Sometime later, one of the interns who had been sitting in the lounge goes up to Wang Jia and asks her for work. But Wang Jia tells him that if he's just going to interrupt operations, then he shouldn't follow her. The intern replies that there are lots of injured people here, so he simply wants to help Dr. Gao. Wang Jia explains that Dr. Gao has gone to rest, and everyone he's seeing right now is actually coming to Dr. Ran. Hearing this, the intern gets really angry and asks whether patients are allowed to choose doctors, especially in the emergency department. Wang Jia tells him they can do whatever they want. And obviously, Wang Jia is going to side with Ran because, well, attraction matters, I guess. The intern follows Wang Jia into the room where the same gang leader Ran treated earlier is also present. But this time, he's with a friend. The leader explains that his brother is injured and only Dr. Ran can treat him. Ran gets a little confused, so the other guy, who's also a gang member, explains that he heard Ran's medical skills are excellent. But his own injury is a bit tricky, and that's why he asks Ran, "Can you save my tattoo?" Because the place where he's injured is exactly where his tattoo is. And this guy absolutely loves his tattoo. Ran looks closely at the tattoo and asks whether it's supposed to be a deer. The guy replies that no, it's not a deer. Since he's already had suturing done on this area before at other hospitals, the washing and treatment ruined his tattoo badly. Originally, he did have a deer tattoo, but after getting injured and sutured somewhere else, the tattoo got messed up so badly that he had to get it removed. Then he got a unicorn tattoo instead, but this one has also been damaged because of his newest injury. Ran carefully studies the tattoo, then examines the wound and tells him that the injury is actually quite large. So if they don't pay close attention to preserving the tattoo during stitching, the tattoo will still become distorted afterward. The guy starts almost crying, saying he doesn't want to change his tattoo, and he doesn't want it removed either. So he begs Ran to help him. Ran begins treating his wound. Just then, the intern walks in and blurts out that Ran is just an intern. Hearing this, the gang member gets irritated and angrily warns the intern that if he keeps interrupting, they'll break his bones. The intern immediately goes quiet. After some time, Ran finishes suturing the wound. The patient himself can't believe how perfectly Ran stitched his skin to the point that you can't even tell the tattoo was sutured at all. His tattoo is saved. The intern watches all this from a distance and he can't believe what he's seeing. He thinks all these people must be blind or exaggerating way too much, because how is this even possible when Ran is just an intern? But when the injured guy turns slightly, the intern finally sees the tattoo and realizes everything they've been saying is true. He thinks to himself that he almost exposed Ran's identity earlier by calling him an intern. Sometime later, Ran completes his system mission by evening. He receives the uninterrupted vertical mattress suturing technique, which is at specialist level. Ran is happy that he finished the entire mission in just one afternoon, and now he's excited to try out this new skill. By evening, Ran returns home. His family runs a clinic called Lower Groove, the same one he mentioned earlier where he works. Seeing him, Ran's father asks why he's dressed like a student and where his white doctor's coat is. His father just wants to see Ran working as a real doctor as soon as possible. Ran's father's name is Ling Ran. He's very excited about Ran's future, and he really wants him to become a doctor quickly, so he can carry on the family business. But when Ran's father starts talking about business, Ran's mother is not happy at all, because he doesn't even ask Ran how his first internship day went, or whether he's tired. He just talks about business. Ran's mother named Tao Ping scolds Ran's father for that. Ran's father gives a silly excuse and Ran just quietly listens. Suddenly, a man rushes into the clinic shouting loudly, which startles all three family members. The man has come with someone whose hand is badly cut. Seeing his condition, the other people sitting in the clinic gather around and start talking. Since everyone here is from the same area, they all recognize the guy. He explains that a kitchen knife fell off a chopping board and sliced his hand, and now it's bleeding heavily. Hearing all this, the doctor who works at the Lower Groove Clinic comes in. You might remember that Ran's father wants Ran to become a doctor quickly because he himself doesn't practice medicine. Instead, he hires doctors to treat patients and they charge high salaries, which he doesn't like. This doctor's name is Dr. Shang. He removes the bandage from the patient's hand and sees a deep cut. After looking at it, he tells the man to go to a big hospital for treatment. Ran hears this, and he really doesn't like that the first impression of the Lower Groove Clinic is simply referring patients away. So Ran asks Dr. Xiang whether he can help. Right then, a new system quest pops up saying that Ran's skill will now be tested. The mission details say he must treat the patient, whose name is Mang Cao Shui. If the patient is satisfied with the result, Ran will receive a basic treasure chest. Hearing Ran ask to help, Dr. Shang reminds him that his internship only started yesterday, so how could he possibly handle this? But since the patient is bleeding heavily, Dr. Xiong decides they should at least disinfect the wound. So he calls the clinic nurse Zhuang Jiayi and asks her to bring the disinfectant supplies. Ran watches all of this while wearing his clinical coat. He looks over at the clinic's tools, then washes his hands, thinking that there are enough resources here for him to do the surgery properly and keep the patient satisfied. Seeing Ran wash his hands, Dr. Xiong gets confused. He tells Ran they are only disinfecting the wound, nothing more. But Ran ignores him, sits down, and starts examining the injury. Dr. Xiong says the cut is simple, but since this is a deep wound, the best thing for the patient would be to go to Yuhua Hospital. However, Ran doesn't listen to Dr. Xiong. He tells the patient that the wound is only on his palm and it's not such a serious matter. Hearing this, the people in the clinic feel a bit relieved by Ran's decision, especially because Yuhua Hospital is 6 miles away. And since the bleeding is so heavy, traveling that far would be dangerous. Still, Dr. Xiang keeps insisting that they shouldn't handle this situation themselves. But Ran ignores him and starts preparing for surgery. He asks the nurse to bring medication. Seeing this, Dr. Xiang starts panicking. He keeps trying to stop him. Ran begins stitching the patient's hand while everyone else watches. During the surgery, Ran realizes that the patient probably won't be able to do very delicate work anymore since the patient owns a food shop. Ran says that in the emergency department, suturing tendons might have been difficult, but in the surgery department, this is considered a basic routine procedure. If the patient went to the hospital right now, he would get good suturing, but the overall service would still be very average. And since Ran trusts his own skills, he decided to handle it himself. Slowly and steadily, Ran completely sutures the patient's hand. After the surgery is finished, everyone is shocked because Ran performed a clean surgery. Dr. Xiong carefully inspects the patient's hand and realizes the surgery was flawless. But now he's confused, wondering how Ran was able to do it. Ran starts wrapping the patient's hand in bandages, while the patient is confused, surprised that suturing could be done so easily. Seeing Ran's work, his father is very impressed, and he tells Ran that from now on, he can practice here at their clinic. However, Ran clearly refuses telling his dad that he still has to complete his internship. But his dad says it would be better if Ran helped them at the clinic so they wouldn't have to pay high salaries to other doctors. And of course, this remark is aimed directly at Dr. Sheng. Just then, the patient's son, Yang Gu, rushes in clearly in a hurry. He goes straight to his father and asks why he got his stitching done at such a small clinic. Because his father's job is at stake. If the treatment goes wrong, he won't be able to earn money. The patient tries to explain that the surgery went well here, so there's no need to go to a big hospital, and his son shouldn't panic. But despite that, Young Gu gets angry at Ran, demanding to know how Ran dared to perform surgery on such a serious injury. Young Gu tells Ran that if the surgery isn't successful, then Ran's clinic will have to financially support his father for the rest of his life. Ran calmly tells him that the surgery was successful, and if he still has doubts, he's welcome to go to a large hospital and have it checked. Ran then advises him to take good care of his father's wound during recovery because there is a very good chance that his father will be able to work normally again. But when Yanggu hears the word chance, he becomes even angrier, asking Ran what he means by that. Is Ran implying that his father might never recover? Seeing the situation heat up, Ran's father steps in and explains to Yanggu that yes, there is a possibility his father may not recover fully. But that possibility is very small since the injury isn't extremely serious or extremely minor, so there's a very high chance his father will go back to normal work. And since the injury wasn't that major, Ran agreed to perform the surgery. Ran's father then tells Yanggu that he can go to a big hospital and have the surgery evaluated, and if he's satisfied, he can come back later and pay the medical expenses. But even after all this explanation, Yanggu still isn't interested and leaves after saying some harsh words. And yeah, you probably notice he doesn't even work himself, yet he makes his father work. Honestly, he should feel ashamed. Ran now checks his system and sees that his quest is still incomplete. That means until Younggu returns from the hospital with his father, Ran won't receive his reward. Younggu now takes his father to a large hospital. Meanwhile, outside the clinic, a biker girl arrives on a motorcycle, apparently looking for the Lower Groove Clinic.